Hello everyone, and welcome to week 13 of English 111. This week's schedule. This week we're going to continue to focus on your research project. Now that you've turned in your annotated bibliography, the next step in the research process is to develop a thesis, or the main point of your paper, and an outline to support that. You will not have any readings this week outside of listening to this lecture. And your assignments will only be to work in your journal on your thesis and your outline. So how do you develop your thesis statement? At this point in your project, you're shifting from just collecting information toward crafting your contribution to the conversation about your issue, and you're now planning your argument. This process begins with your thesis statement. A thesis statement is a clear, focused expression of the main point you want to make. So how do you create one? You're going to begin by reviewing your position statement. I want you to reflect on your position on your issue. Does it still represent the most important thing you want to say about your issue? Also, I want you to review all your notes. Hopefully you've been taking notes while you've been reading all these different sources. So with your position statement in mind, I want you to quickly review your notes. Identify important information, ideas, and arguments that you've come across while you've been reading. Review and elaborate on ideas and arguments that you've come up with about your topic. I want you to also consider your purpose and your role. After you review your research and notes, you should have a clearer understanding of your topic and be closer to the main point you want to make in your document. Drafting your thesis. So I want you to identify important information, ideas, and arguments associated with your position. You review the research questions and answers and underline key words. So just go back through where you have your research questions and look at what are the main words that have come up that are kind of the key words that I have to have in my thesis. And then you go ahead and you draft multiple versions of your thesis. A thesis statement is the most important sentence that you will write in your entire research paper. An effective thesis can invite readers to learn something new. It can suggest that they change their attitudes or beliefs, or argue that they should take action of some kind. So, for example, if your position statement is preserving privacy on social networking websites is an individual responsibility, okay, that would be when you wrote your position, that's what you said, then a sample of a thesis, there's three different kinds of thesis statements you can write. You can write one that ask readers to learn something new. You can ask one that asks readers to change their attitudes or beliefs, or you can write one that asks readers to take an action. So based on the position statement, preserving privacy on social networking websites is an individual responsibility, this is three different possibilities for a thesis statement. Social networking websites don't reveal personal information. People reveal personal information. This is a thesis statement that asks readers to learn something new. And obviously this paper will talk about how people reveal personal information on social networking websites. We should view the use of social networking sites in educational settings with a great deal of caution. This thesis statement is asking readers to change their attitude or beliefs. In this case, they're asking the reader to change their attitude or belief about using social networking sites in an educational setting. People who use social networking websites should learn how to safeguard sensitive personal information. This is a thesis that is asking readers to take action. It's showing readers how to safeguard their sensitive personal information in social networking websites. So, for your first journal this week, you're going to be drafting your thesis statement. I want you to go through these steps. First, write down your research question. Second, write down your position statement. Third, Write down the purpose for writing your paper. For the fourth one, I want you to answer these questions. I want my readers to do one of the following: learn about, change their attitude about, take the following action. So this is where you're going to start figuring out which kind of thesis you want to write. The most important words and phrases in my research question are, the most important words and phrases in my position statement are, building on my research question and position statement, my thesis statement is, this is where you draft one, and you might want to try more than one type. My readers are likely to respond to this thesis statement by asking the following questions or raising the following objections. This is where you think about, what are the possible counter-arguments to what I'm saying in my paper? Number 9, I can focus my thesis statement by rephrasing it. This is where you go back and look at the draft of the thesis statement that you wrote, and you refine it. You try to make it as focused as possible. It shouldn't be more than one sentence, and it should be very clear that it lines up the main point you're going to be making in your paper. Once you've created a strong thesis, you can begin to think about the 3 or 4 subtopics you will discuss in order to prove your thesis. You do this by creating an outline. Your outline provides a framework you can use to draft your document. Your outline should include the points you will include in your document, the order in which you will make your points, and the evidence you will use to support each point. For your second journal this week, I want you to map your argument and draft an outline. Start off by listing your revised thesis statement. Yes, it should be revised from the last journal entry. Don't just do this really fast and go through it. I want you to think about it. Second, I want you to review your notes to identify reasons that help advance your thesis statement. These are subtopics. I want you to list all possible subtopics, at least 10 of them. Then, I want you to tell me, how will readers accept your thesis? Consider the organizational patterns that are going to be listed on the next slide. Choose one of them and use this pattern to order your subtopics. Then I'd like you to create an outline as shown on slide 10. Review your outline by asking yourself, does my outline provide an effective organization for my document? Have I covered all my key points or subtopics? Have I addressed my key points subtopics in sufficient detail? Do any sections seem out of order? Here's a list of the possible organizational patterns for your paper. The first is chronological. This is organizing in a way that reflects events as they occur over time. This is a really good idea for if you're writing about a historical issue. You say it started this way and then it ends up this way. Definition is where you lay out distinguishing characteristics of a subject and provide examples and reasoning to explain what differentiates it from similar subjects. Cause and effect. The document is organized according to factors that lead to cause and outcome effect. Pro and con. Ideas and information are organized to favor one side of an argument. Comparison contrast. Identifies similarities and differences among the information, ideas, and arguments relevant to a subject. Problem solution. Defines a problem and discusses appropriateness of one or more solutions. If multiple solutions are proposed, though, an argument is usually made for the superiority of one over the others. Here's a sample outline format. At the top of your page, write your thesis statement. And I have a sample thesis statement here. Although competitive sports can provide young female athletes with many benefits, they can also have negative effects, the worst of which is increasing drug use. Then you will write a brief sentence about your introduction, which will include a short topic history and current trends and issues in your topic area, and then you will introduce your paper's main issue. These are just short in an outline. These are just one sentence each. Then you'll write your first subtopic and provide list the evidence you'll be using to support this subtopic. You need at least 2 pieces of evidence to support each subtopic. Then you'll list subtopic 2 with evidence, subtopic 3 with evidence. Then you'll list your counter arguments. What are the things that your reader is going to say against your topic? What is the opposite point of view? And you want to research that, and then you're going to disprove it. Finally, you're going to conclude. And you're only writing one sentence here. This is just to give you the skeleton of your paper. All right? It doesn't have to be perfect yet. This is just to give you the ability to see the structure of your paper at this point. Don't get stressed out about it, and remember, you can always email me if you have questions. This is just going to be in your journal. It's not turned in as a main assignment. So what's in your future? The reason why we're doing thesis and outline this week is next week you're writing your first draft of your paper. Then the following week we'll be doing revision and peer review. And then you'll be turning in your final paper. Our final week, I believe, is in the first week of January, and we'll be turning in our paper, and then we will have a final for this class. All right, guys, good luck, and I'm sorry for the delay in posting my content this week. It's been a crazy weekend with no power, as you guys probably are very familiar with thanks to Hurricane Sandy. So I appreciate your patience, and I will see you online.